In 38 years on this bench, I've learned something about doctors. Most are humble. They understand that their skill to heal comes with responsibility to do no harm, in the operating room and outside it. They treat janitors with the same respect they show fellow surgeons because they know saving lives isn't about status, it's about service. But then there are the others, the ones who confuse their medical degree with moral superiority, who believe their ability to repair hearts means they can break rules without consequence, who think the word doctor in front of their name grants them immunity from the laws that govern everyone else. Dr. Marcus Holloway was one of those others. When he walked into my courtroom that Tuesday morning, he carried himself like a man doing me a favor by appearing. Designer suit, Tom Ford, probably $4,000, perfectly tailored to his athletic frame. Italian leather shoes, polished to perfection. A Rolex Presidential on his wrist that cost more than most people earn in a year. And an expression that said he already knew how this would end, with an apology from me for wasting his valuable time. I'd reviewed his file before court. Dr. Marcus Holloway, age 48, Chief of Cardiothoracic Surgery at Metropolitan Hospital. Over 2,000 successful heart surgeries, published in every major medical journal. Annual salary, $850,000, not including speaking fees and consultation work. He'd been featured on the cover of Medical Excellence Journal with the headline, "The Man Who Never Loses." But the file also contained something else. Blood alcohol level of 14, nearly twice the legal limit. Hit and run, fleeing the scene, resisting arrest. And when Officer Williams had finally caught up with him at his mansion in Lakeview Estates, Dr. Holloway's exact words were, "Do you know how many lives I save? I'm worth more than whatever I hit." What he'd hit was a 2012 Honda Civic. The car belonged to Rachel Chen, a 34-year-old cardiac ICU nurse. She made $52,000 a year. She worked night shifts at the same hospital where Dr. Holloway performed his famous surgeries, and she'd just finished a 12-hour shift when his Porsche destroyed her car in a convenience store parking lot. "Your Honor," Dr. Holloway's attorney began. "Jonathan Sterling, one of the most expensive defense lawyers in the state. My client is one of the most respected cardiac surgeons in the country. His hands have saved over 2,000 lives. Surely this court can recognize that his value to society far outweighs a momentary lapse in judgment." I looked at Dr. Holloway. He was nodding along, agreeing with every word about his own importance. Not remorseful, not humble, just impatient to get back to being important. "A momentary lapse in judgment," I repeated slowly. "Is that what we're calling drunk driving now?" Sterling adjusted his tie. "Your Honor, my client had attended a medical conference dinner. He had 2 glasses of wine over several hours. He didn't realize his tolerance had been affected by exhaustion from a long surgery earlier that day. 2 glasses of wine resulted in a blood alcohol level of 0.14. The breathalyzer may have been faulty, Your Honor. We intend to challenge..." "Mr. Sterling, your client also fled the scene after destroying another person's vehicle. How do you explain that?" Dr. Holloway spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the smooth confidence of someone who'd given TED Talks and medical conference keynotes. "Your Honor, if I may explain, I genuinely didn't realize I'd hit anything. The parking lot was poorly lit. I felt a slight bump that I assumed was a speed bump, and I was focused on getting home after a 16-hour day at the hospital." "A speed bump that destroyed the front end of your Porsche?" "I drive a high-performance vehicle, Your Honor. It sits low to the ground. Minor impacts can seem more severe than they are." I pulled up the police photos. Dr. Holloway's Porsche. Front bumper crumpled, headlight shattered, hood dented, paint scraped along the entire passenger side. Rachel Chen's Honda. Front end completely destroyed. Driver's side door caved in. Frame damage that totaled the car. Dr. Holloway, this doesn't look minor to me. He barely glanced at the photos. Your Honor, I perform surgeries on beating hearts. I make life and death decisions every single day. With all due respect, I think I can assess vehicle damage. There it was, the condescension. The subtle implication that his expertise in one area somehow transferred to all areas. That being brilliant in the operating room made him qualified to determine what constituted significant car damage. Let's talk about those life and death decisions, I said. How many surgeries have you performed while intoxicated? Dr. Holloway's face flushed red. Your Honor, that's an outrageous question. I would never... You were willing to drive drunk, Dr. Holloway. Why should I believe you've never operated drunk? Because surgery requires precision. I would never compromise patient safety. But you'll compromise public safety. The children walking to school past that intersection. The families driving home from dinner. They're worth less than your surgical patients? Sterling jumped in. Your Honor, my client's commitment to his patients is exactly why we're asking for leniency. Dr. Holloway has 3 complex surgeries scheduled next week. Patients whose lives depend on his skill. Surely the court can what, Mr. Sterling? Ignore drunk driving because your client is good at his job? Not ignore, Your Honor. Consider the broader impact. If Dr. Holloway serves jail time, 3 patients who need emergency cardiac surgery will have to find another surgeon. They may not survive the wait. I looked at Dr. Holloway again. He was nodding, believing this argument would work, believing his value as a surgeon would save him from consequences. Dr. Holloway, I said, do you believe you should be held to a different standard because you're a surgeon? He hesitated, probably sensing this was a trap, but his arrogance won. Your Honor, I believe context matters. A construction worker who drives drunk risks his own life and others' lives. When I drive drunk, yes, I risk lives. But the difference is what I do when I'm sober. I save lives. Surely that should count for something. The courtroom went silent. Even his own attorney looked uncomfortable with that answer. So, you're telling me that because you save lives in the hospital, you should get a pass on endangering lives outside it? I'm saying that my value to society should be considered when determining punishment. And what about Rachel Chen's value to society? Dr. Holloway looked confused. Who? The woman whose car you destroyed, Rachel Chen, the cardiac ICU nurse at your hospital. I don't know every nurse's name, Your Honor. She's worked with you for 5 years, Dr. Holloway. She's assisted in dozens of your surgeries. He shrugged. The OR team changes. I focus on the surgery, not on memorizing support staff. Support staff? He just called the nurses who save lives alongside him support staff. Your Honor, came a voice from the gallery. Rachel Chen stood up. May I say something? I nodded. She approached the witness stand, wearing her hospital scrubs with her name tag clearly visible. Rachel Chen, RN, Cardiac ICU. Dr. Holloway, she said quietly, I was there when you performed Mr. Patterson's triple bypass last month. When his blood pressure dropped suddenly, I was the one who caught it and alerted you before he went into cardiac arrest. You thanked me afterward. You said I'd saved his life. Dr. Holloway shifted uncomfortably. I don't recall. I was there when Mrs. Rodriguez coded during recovery from her valve replacement. I performed CPR for 8 minutes while you were in another surgery. I kept her alive until you could get there. Miss Chen, I'm sure you do fine work, but I was there the night you crashed into my car, Dr. Holloway. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift. I'd monitored 6 post-op cardiac patients. I'd caught 2 medication errors that could have been fatal. I'd held Mrs. Kim's hand while she cried about her husband's surgery. And then I came out to find my car destroyed and you gone. Dr. Holloway had no response. For the first time since entering my courtroom, He looked uncertain. "The next day," Rachel continued, "I had to borrow money from my sister to rent a car so I could get to work, because if I didn't show up, there would be no one to monitor the patients in the cardiac ICU. No one to catch the complications. No one to save the lives that apparently matter less than yours." She turned to me. "Your Honor, Dr. Holloway is a brilliant surgeon. I won't deny that. But brilliance in one area doesn't exempt anyone from basic decency. And driving drunk, destroying someone's property, and fleeing, that's not just illegal. It's the opposite of everything doctors swear to uphold. First, do no harm. He forgot that applies everywhere, not just in the OR. Rachel sat back down. The courtroom was completely silent. I looked at Dr. Holloway. "Do you have anything to say to Ms. Chen?" He cleared his throat. I apologize that this situation has caused you inconvenience." Inconvenience. He'd totaled her car, left her scrambling for transportation to save lives alongside him, and he called it an inconvenience. "Dr. Holloway," I said, standing from my bench, something I do when I want everyone to understand how serious I am. "I'm going to tell you something my father told me when I was young. My father was a plumber. He fixed pipes, unclogged drains, did the work most people think is beneath them. And he said to me, 'Frank, it doesn't matter if you save lives or fix toilets. What matters is whether you treat people with dignity and respect.'" Dr. Holloway looked like he wanted to interrupt, but I continued. "You save lives in the operating room. That's noble work. But you don't save lives because you're better than other people. You save lives because you have a skill and you chose to use it to help others. The moment you start believing that skill makes you above the law, above basic decency, above the people who work alongside you, that's the moment you stop being a healer and start being a danger." I sat back down. "Here's my ruling. For driving under the influence with a blood alcohol level of 14, you're sentenced to 90 days in county jail." "Your Honor," Sterling jumped up. "His patients." "We'll find another surgeon. Metropolitan Hospital employs 47 cardiologists. They'll manage." "But, Your Honor, Dr. Holloway is scheduled to speak at—" "I don't care what he's scheduled to do, Counselor. He made a choice to drive drunk. He made a choice to flee the scene. He made a choice to show zero remorse or empathy. Now he faces the consequences." Dr. Holloway stood up, his composure finally cracking. "Your Honor, you don't understand. I have commitments. I have patients who've waited months for my surgical schedule. I have speaking engagements worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're destroying everything I've built." "No, Dr. Holloway. You destroyed it yourself the moment you got behind the wheel drunk." "This is insane. I save lives. Your gavel doesn't save anyone. My scalpel does. You sit here judging people, but what do you contribute? What have you ever saved?" The courtroom gasped. Even Sterling looked horrified. I stayed calm. "Dr. Holloway, I've spent 38 years ensuring that people who break the law, regardless of their profession, their salary, or their accomplishments, face appropriate consequences. That's what I contribute. That's what I save. The principle that we're all equal under the law." "But I'm not equal," he shouted. "I'm not the same as some drunk driver who works at a gas station. My hands are worth millions. My expertise is irreplaceable. Your hands are exactly the same as Rachel Chen's hands. The hands that perform CPR. The hands that catch fatal medication errors. The hands that hold scared patients while you're between surgeries." Dr. Holloway was breathing hard, his carefully constructed superiority completely shattered. "Additionally," I continued, "you'll pay full restitution to Ms. Chen for her vehicle. You'll complete 200 hours of community service working with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And you'll attend mandatory alcohol counseling twice weekly for 6 months. Your Honor, please. And one more thing. You're going to write a letter to every nurse, technician, and staff member at Metropolitan Hospital explaining why what you did was wrong. Not a PR statement, a real letter acknowledging that the people you called support staff are your equals who deserve your respect. As the bailiff approached to take him into custody, Dr. Holloway looked at me with pure hatred. You're making a mistake. People need me. People need doctors who understand that saving lives is a privilege, not a license to endanger them. 90 days later, Dr. Marcus Holloway walked out of county jail a different man. The first thing he did was go to Rachel Chen's apartment. He handed her a check for the full value of her car, plus 6 months of her salary. "I don't want your money," Rachel said. "I know, but you deserve it anyway. What I did was inexcusable. I endangered you, I cost you money you couldn't afford to lose, and I treated you like you were invisible. I'm sorry." Rachel took the check. "Thank you. Now do better." Dr. Holloway did do better. He started attending AA meetings. He learned every nurse's name at Metropolitan Hospital. He began volunteering his surgical skills at a free clinic for uninsured patients. And when he returned to his private practice, he did something revolutionary. He split his speaking fee income equally among all the OR nurses, technicians, and staff who worked his surgeries. "I spent my whole career thinking I was special because I could do something most people can't," he told me when he returned for his community service completion hearing. "Judge Anderson made me realize that everyone can do something most people can't, and none of it makes us better than anyone else." "What changed your mind?" I asked. "County jail, actually. I shared a cell with a guy named Marcus, same name as me. Marcus was a mechanic in jail for drug possession, and one night I was having chest pains, panic attack from withdrawal and stress. Marcus knew exactly what to do. He kept me calm, called for medical help, probably saved my life with his quick thinking." Dr. Holloway smiled. When I thanked him afterward, you know what he said? "Doc, I didn't save your life because I'm special. I saved it because you needed help and I could help you. That's what people are supposed to do." And I realized he understood something I'd forgotten. Saving lives isn't about being superior. It's about being useful when someone needs you. 6 months after his sentencing, Dr. Holloway testified before the State Medical Board, advocating for mandatory ethics training for all surgeons. "We spend years learning to repair hearts," he said. "Maybe we should spend some time learning to have one." My father, the plumber, was right. It doesn't matter whether you save lives or fix toilets. What matters is whether you treat people with dignity and respect. Dr. Holloway had to spend 90 days in jail to learn what my father tried to teach me for free. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, your skills, your accomplishments, your title, none of it makes you better than anyone else. It just gives you different ways to serve. And the moment you forget that, you stop being valuable to anyone.